Hello, I'm PJ Bishop, and welcome back. As you can see, May wasn't as kind to us as April, as we're currently sitting at 26 and 26, which is 500. So it's much better than the way they played last year when I took over the team. But we definitely dropped. At one point, we were in a wild card position. Now we're looking at we're a game and a half out. It's not like we're out of contention at all. I would definitely have to win against the worst teams in our league, or at least win the series. You don't have to win every game, but win the series, and then try to hold up our own against the better teams of the league. As look at Miami. Atlanta charging up, not that far behind us. They actually ended up sweeping. I think they swept us in a 4-game series. That was during my down point. I think at one point we lost 6 to 8 straight and just couldn't make anything happen. It was pretty much as soon as May started. The New York series was bad. They're up 7.5 right now. The New York series was bad, and then we had Atlanta, which we let them, I think, win 4 straight. So it was rough. We had a rough going for a while. But we're definitely doing much better now. In fact, if you look at our last 10, here we are, our last 10. We're 7-3. That's what I thought. So we had much better lately, 7-3. Losing record against the lefties, which I figured that. We have a lot of guys that struggle against lefties, actually. So I'm not surprised to see that we have a losing record versus lefties. Around 500 versus righties. Games were 500. Extra innings we were losing. All this is roughly going to be 500, considering that we are 500. It's not like it's going to be one way or the other. I'm not doing a good job with the run difference. Minus 31. It's probably not going to get us in the wild card. But we're here. We're only a game and a half out. That's 7-3, aside from Philadelphia. Atlanta as well. So it looks like the whole AL East or NL East is finally playing better. We're one of the better teams in the league. Anything can change when you're only a game and a half is really nothing, because anytime you could face one of these teams, like Milwaukee, and all of a sudden we're up. That actually ended up happening. We played against Arizona, ended up winning that series, swept them 3-0. So those kind of things help. I did have some sweeping changes. As you can see, we are quite an below average, actually bottom third in most categories. Batting WAR isn't bad compared to everything else. It is bad. Stolen bases is first, but that's because I'm super aggressive. The ERA is hovering around what you would consider league average. But nothing, we're not doing anything spectacular. We're just barely hanging on. Trying to be a playoff team, but not quite there yet. Hopefully we have a better summer than we did a spring. Did make some changes. As you can see, my lineup looks a little different. My rotation looks a little different. The bullpen looks a little different. After we're nearly a third of the way through the season, so by now you can kind of figure out how your players are doing, whether or not it's worth calling somebody up to replace them, or because if they're having a pretty bad year, they're probably going to continue having a pretty bad year, and you're just going to put yourself in a bad situation and continue taking losses when you could be taking W's. So let's take a look at my lineup, the revamped lineup. Batting leadoff, and he's been doing it pretty much all season, is third baseman Jordan Groshans. He's not playing anything spectacular, as you can see here. He's got a 691 OPS. That's nothing fantastic about that, but he's keeping it up around that area. He's been solid for us. Is pretty much all I can say. He's been solid. Sometimes he wins. He goes on some hot streaks. Other times he's kind of playing average. But he's playing well enough to remain in the lineup and still keep hitting leadoff. I actually don't mind him at all. He's doing pretty well. Number 2 and a recent call up. I did send him down. So don't look at that. This is highly inflated. Is Victor Mesa, center fielder Victor Mesa. He's so nice they named him twice. In the few games he did play for us before I sent him down, he had a 938 OPS. Average is highly inflated. That's going to go down as he starts playing more. But he wasn't doing bad at AAA either. He was 805 down there. And that was in 22 games. So if he hovers around 705, I don't know how many points he'll drop, considering that he doesn't really have, if you look at his ratings, they're pretty poor all around, but somehow he's capable of, he's hanging around. I don't know how. The avoid Ks is nice, but that's it. So he's not really going to strike out. And if he does get on base, he's definitely a threat to do it. But he's here, and I like him because of his defensive capabilities. He can play any outfield spot, and at a good high level as well, as he's got really good range, a really good arm, and above average as far as the air is concerned. And he can't play infield. He could play third base in a pinch. If I need him to be at third base, he could. He's got the arm to play third, but not quite. I'm not really happy with the air or range part, but he could still play in a pinch if you need him. And I have played him there, actually, as you can see. That's why he has that rating at 20, 40 maximum, because when you need him. And it's nice to get more positions under your players. Batting at the coveted number 3 spot is left fielder Jazz Chisholm Jr. And he's doing a good job, still holding his own. But that's actually mostly against righties. His righty-lefty split is so far apart from each other. Like he is struggling against lefties, and I mean struggling against lefties. He's doing terrible against lefties. So that OPS and that, like, all these numbers down here could be so much higher if he could just figure out what he's doing wrong against lefties, because he's not hitting well at all against lefties. Still on pace for over 100 stolen bases if he. So it definitely dropped from 162 to 115, which is much more of a reasonable rate. But that's still a ton. Anytime, I don't remember the last time there's been over 100 stolen bases. I mean, I know it's happened, but I can't remember the last time it's happened. But he's on pace. He has 37 now. He's on pace for 115, but the average is good, solid 296. Slugging percentage is great. I mean, he's also on pace to hit 31 home runs. So that's still a really excellent club there. 30 homers, 115 stolen bases. But if he could just figure out what he's doing wrong against left-handers, he'd be much more of a valuable weapon. Because right now he's really struggling versus lefties. So it looks like I had him at first base. And he's one of those guys that can kind of play everywhere. Batting cleanup number is first baseman Nico Cavadas. Real solid for a rookie right now. 801 OPS. Currently has, what he's got? He's got 9 home runs, on pace for 28. But again, like Chaz, he's another guy that's struggling against left-handed pitching. And when I say struggling, I mean it's just a complete polar opposite. It's dragging all its numbers down. It's just some of these guys, I guess, can't play against lefties, and he's one of them. So a lot of his numbers, most of this is against righties. He's just not that good against lefties. But he's still holding his own. He's come in and been a valuable impact bat for us at the cleanup spot, and I like it. He was a really good trade, really good acquisition for us. One of the first ones I made because it was a November trade. Batting number 5 is Mike Zunino. Now, his average is laughable. I know it is. It's 134. But he's got 8 home runs, still on pace for 25, considering how terrible he is. I know he's pretty much home run or nothing kind of guy. But he's not playing against lefties anymore. He's only playing against righties, as he is. He still has excellent defense, so you can't take that away from him either. But he's so bad now that I have to keep him. I mean, of the 8 home runs, 7 against righties and 1 is against a lefty. So he's not really hitting home runs against lefties. He's not really doing that great against lefties at all. Of course, there's been far fewer games versus lefties. But even then, the percentage-wise, home run per lefties is still way, way down. So I did keep him in because he does play good defense. And he does jack enough home runs where he's worth keeping for me. Batting number 6, second baseman Jacob Amaya. He's been a pleasant surprise. Because if you look at his contact and if you look at his home run power, neither of those are they're not even average, they're below average. But he does have good eye, and he does have a good avoid Ks, which is what's been able to get him a decent, a really good average and a really good on-base percentage. His on-base percentage is 400, and his average is 325. Those are good, and his OPS is 839. So he's been a real solid player across the board, and he's a really good second baseman. Like, he's really good second baseman. Like, he's exactly the kind of second baseman you would love to have. So even if his bat wasn't playing that well, defensively he's more than making up for it. So he's a real true bargain because he's the bare minimum 720K, and he's a really good defender, and he's playing really good offensively. So right now, things are looking good. But he's doing it against both lefties and righties. So I do like that. Real solid for us. At number 7 is shortstop. That's right, shortstop now. And good thing he's so versatile. Is Sidani Raffiali. Not doing great. And this is also dragged down by his left-hand splits. He's another one of those guys who just can't seem to figure out against lefties. So his overall statistics are brought down because of that. But he's doing much better versus righties. And Gene Sakura, unfortunately, is the opposite. He's great against lefties, but he's terrible against righties. So we're kind of doing a platoon now at shortstop. Again, another trade with Boston. So Boston has given me 2 of my starters who are actually doing pretty well for me. So thank you, Boston. So again, this is, even though it's 689, it's a little better than what it looks. And he's extremely useful. He's got 20 stolen bases, on pace for 62. So when he does get on base, it's dangerous, and he does make things happen. Batting number 8, right fielder Jorge Soler. Again, the home runs are there, on pace for 25. The average is really bad, and his OPS, but his numbers are also dragged down by the left-handed. He's another one of those guys that just can't seem to figure out where's lefties. He's got the power, but it's just the overall stats look way worse because his lefty splits are terrible. But he's not bad, especially if he keeps just hitting it. He can hit just enough home. I think at one point he actually hit 4 homers in a row, or 4 games in a row. He hit home runs. That was pretty nice. That was a nice little streak for him. If he can just be effective enough, just enough, he'll keep staying in the lineup. And our number 9 and my most recent call-up and my most exciting call-up is my designated hitter, Jacob Berry. I know this doesn't look good right now, 2 stars, but he's playing out of his mind. Started the year off at AA, 1,200 OPS. Started the year then got called up to AAA, 1,000 OPS. So even if he drops down to, let's say, 800 OPS, that's still really good. I will take that. Considering that's better than what we had here earlier. So I think this lineup looks excellent. He looks excellent. I mean, he's played well all year. He deserves because he's kind of forced his way onto the major league roster with his play. And that's the lineup. It's not great, as the record shows it's not great, and so do the stats. But I think we just improved it. I think we had enough time to kind of figure out who should be where and what, and if they deserve a spot or not. And now that we'll let them play the whole summer out and see how they do in the summer, and we'll make adjustments as we go along. If I don't really foresee us making any trades that will land us big time players, because I don't think we're there. And even then, I'm not the kind of person that wants to sell out our future just to maybe win a championship. It's hard to win a championship in baseball. And unless the deal is just unbelievably good, I don't really make them. It has to really help me out. And I won't ever sacrifice the future. I will never trade these two guys here just to get maybe a 3.5, 4-star pitcher. Just not worth it for me. I'll rather wait it out. Sign a free agent for a year or two. Because as you can see, Tyler Mahle and Jose Berrios have not done bad at all. Tyler Mahle's actually doing excellent. 4-2, 2.77 ERA. And Jose Berrios, when he plays for us, we're 5-2 when he starts with a 4.31 ERA. So he's not terrible. So, and those were 2 free agent signings, and I think they've done well. Now, I'm highly disappointed in Sandy Alcantara. 3-6 with him with a 5.45 ERA. He's been kind of bad all year. He's just consistently, even though he's able to go deep into games, he just gives up a lot of runs. I mean, that's more because of his stamina than anything else. If he was actually more efficient, would be. He's just not playing anything near his Cy Young year. The year that he was a Cy Young winner, he was absolutely amazing. But he's not anywhere near that level right now, and it's just frustrating because we're paying him a lot of money, and then he's owed a lot of money next year, and I'm probably will have to trade him because I can't really afford $17 million. It's too much, so I will have to trade him. And depending on how competitive we are come trade deadline, it'll either be at the deadline or in the off season. Hopefully, be at the deadline because it's harder to trade once you get to that $17 million range. They're less willing to talk to you when the money is getting up there like that. But he's been disappointing anyway. He's got a losing record and he's got a really high ERA, 5.45 ERA. WHIP is terrible again. Let's compare it from last year. The last 3 years, you can really see. It's just gotten worse every year, and huge jumps too. Not even gradually worse, but huge jumps. The home run rate is much like last year. I don't know why they can't bring it back to what it was actually in real life. His walk rate has nearly doubled since that Cy Young year. It is not striking out as many guys. Almost as similar as last year, but just not really. Overall, just really dropped everywhere. But Tyler Mahle has been a pleasant surprise for us, and I guess he's worth the signing. What do we owe? 10, 10, 13, and 13. So I'll say it was a good signing by us because he's playing almost like an ace. As you can see here, he did have a bad game here. Got absolutely destroyed by Houston. This is part of our big losing streak area. Got absolutely destroyed by Houston. Gave up 9 runs in that game. 8 were earned. That's the home runs. 3 homers there. He only gave up 4 home runs all year. 3 of them came in one game. So aside from that one game, he's played really well. So I can't complain too much. I mean, it looks like it could be a career high for his ERA. At the end of the year, I'll check the full stats and see if it's a career high or not. But recently, it'll be one of his better years. The whip rate will be one of his better years. Home run, 0.6 now. I guess 3 in the same game didn't really help. But walk rate's roughly the same as last year. Strikeout rate's down a little bit. So I feel like he could still improve a little. Oh, I don't know, because the home run rate is also much lower than it has been in recent years. So hopefully it stays like this. Even if he stays like this for the rest of the year, I'll be extremely pleased. Number 3, Jose Berrios. And he's done very well. I say very well, but he has done well. Even though the ERA is not as low. But league average is roughly around 4-something. So he's around the league average when it comes to that. And he's our number 3 starter. So you kind of expect him to perform similar to that. And it's his lowest ERA in quite some time, down to 4.3. The WHIP is is at 1.2. I like 1.2. That's a good rate. Home run rate is 1.3. Walk rate's lower. Strikeouts rate is lower, but he's not a strikeout guy, so that's okay. But everything else is lower, so he's really doing well. Looks like that was a career low in walk rate, so he might even break his own stat there with a career low in walk rate. So he's improving in the walks rate, which I expect. He's got 65 command or control, however you want to call it. So that's expected from him. Simeon Woods Richardson got called back into the starting rotation. I think I removed, was it Max Brown? Max Brown was just struggling as a starter. So despite him being young, he's holding his own so far. As you can see, his ERA is not immaculate, but it's pretty darn good. He did have a few games where he was struggling, but this was kind of when we were as a team struggling. So he wasn't the only one that was struggling. It was kind of a team effort there. But he's playing really well. Again, it was a trade with Minnesota. Not my trade. It was a trade deadline trade. The AI did before I took over. I'd say they did a good job with him. Considering that he's one of the guys that got back, I'd say they did a really good job. And he's still developing. He's a young guy. He can still get a little better, which I like. His home run rate is never going to be that low. His walk rate is surprisingly good, considering that his control is not that good. And his strikeout rate is almost double. He's good. This is really solid numbers. And as a number 4 starter, you can't really complain too much. And our number 5 starter, if you don't remember, is Edward Cabrera. If you don't remember, a long time ago, he had like a .6 something ERA, which I told you was not going to happen. It was not going to be sustainable, and it wasn't. As you can see now, it's up to 4.27. He's actually gotten worse finally last game was better. But for a while, he was just getting worse and worse every single game, which I expected. He had an unsustainable ERA. It was like 0.67 or 0.87. It was whatever it was. It was unrealistic for anybody, whether it was Garrett Cole or Edward Cabrera. It was just unrealistic to maintain at that level, and he didn't. Now he's up to what you would expect. This is something that's more sustainable, and from a number 5 starter, you would expect this. But again, I can't complain too much as a number 5. He's improving from last year, as you can see here. ERA's dropped about a 1.6. So that's a good improvement there. WHIP's not a little worse here. Home run rate's up, but he's never going to have a good home run rate. The walk rate is much improved. Strikeout rate is down. Surprisingly, the strikeout rate is down because that's what he is. He is a strikeout guy. But hopefully that will turn around. You never know. But even then, if he continues to play at this kind of level, I can live with the 4.3 ERA, for the rest of the year, as long as he's consistent instead of the games where he was giving up so many runs and just looking flat out terrible. My closer, I am so pleased with. What a pick. A Rule 5 draft pick. That's all it is. Just some guy that the Tampa Bay Rays didn't want to protect. And I said, hey, why not? When you have perfect grade stuff, you have to. He's got some really good stuff. He's got a good arsenal of pitchers, too. You don't usually see this with relievers and closers, where he's got 2 pitches that are considered elite. One's a perfect grade slider. Then he's got a plus pitch and a sinker, and then an average curveball. He's almost got a 4-pitch arsenal for a closer. That's no wonder why he's doing so well. As you can see here, he's got 5 games in a row. He's got a save. Only given up 1 run in the last 5 games. At one point, he had 2 strikeouts in a row in almost every game. ERA is fantastic. He's just looking really good. I'm really surprised that Tampa Bay would not keep him. Because even though his WHIP is nearly doubled, Well, 1.5 times, I guess. It was 0.9 if you round it up. His home run rate is he halved his home run rate. He walks a lot of people, but I expect that. So I think that was unsustainable from last year. So it's probably why his whip is much more increased. I think his walk rate from last year was not where it should have been. But he was striking out way more last year than he is this year. So that's also kind of disappointing. But he's getting up less home runs, which I'm happy. And whatever he's doing is working because his ERA is at 2.21, which is extremely good, extremely low. I mean, it's even better than his ERAs in the minor leagues. So can't complain too much. And then we had to make some new setup men. Anthony Maldonado earned this with his play. The other two guys had to get rid of him. They were just not doing good. Even though he's only played in 10 innings so far this year, he's looked solid. 2.53 ERA. Whip is below 1. Hasn't given up a home run all season, which of course scares me because that means it's coming. At some point, there are going to be home runs given up, and it's going to be when I'm trying to close out a game, and I'll be pissed. His walk rate is extremely down, and he's not striking out that many guys. He should be striking out more. So hopefully I'll see this number go up. This number can stay the same. I hope this number won't stay the same, but it would be nice if it does. But he does deserve the role that I gave him. And then the other guy is going to be Luarber Arise, who hasn't played that much yet. Actually looked terrible in the minors. This is his minor league statistics. Looked terrible there. Or this is the minor leagues. Yeah, looked terrible in his. Finally got better in the third game, but the first two looked really rough. As he gave up 3 earned runs, 2 earned runs, and then finally in this game he looked much better at 3 innings, 4 strikeouts. I mean, he was striking guys out. 2 innings, 2.13. But he was also giving up 2 homers, 1 homer. But then when he came to play for us, he played very well. 3 innings played so far, 4 strikeouts, no earned runs given up. So whatever happened in the minors is not carrying over to the majors. And I haven't, even though he's got a small sample size this year, and even a small sample size last year, you can see last year, same thing. Just 3 innings played, but so far he's got a really good, both times he's got good whips. He's doing pretty well. So it's more of a faith thing than anything else. Because I do like this. This is good. This is okay. I mean, a lot of relievers have that, and this is pretty good. He's got 2 elite pitches. That's what you need as a reliever, or especially a setup man. But he looks good, and he can still improve a little. So we'll see what happens. So that's it. That's kind of the major changes there. A couple of Victor Mesa and Jacob Berry are the new additions. Because everybody else was pretty much starting all year. I think Jordan's been starting, Jazz, Nico, Mike, Sedan, Jorge. Those are all. But Jacob Berry. So hopefully these 2 new guys will help improve the team. And moving Woods Richardson back to the starting rotation, I'm hoping that will help as well. And then changing up my, high leverage situation, arms. Hopefully that will help, since we were struggling in that department, and we did lose a lot of games late because of that. We were up, by 2 or 3 runs. The next thing we know, we're down by 5 runs. Let's take a look at our prospects, see how they're doing. We already ended up calling one of them. That's Jacob Berry. So we know we're going to have a slightly less when it comes to this department. Currently looking at 13. Not too heavy with him, but that's Florida Complex, International. There we go. Robert Perez Jr. Moved him back to first base since Jacob Berry is gone. He's holding his own. Nothing fabulous. He's definitely not doing as well. It seems like every jump. Well, no, ever since high A, he's gotten worse. So he's gotten worse as he's gotten older. So I don't know if he's been overrated this entire time or if he's being moved up a little too quick. But it's hard to say that he's being moved up too quick, considering that he's doing so well at the lower levels. So, But judging by this and the brief stint he had during the spring training, he's pretty far from being a contributor for me, and his home run power is getting there. But everything else, but we have plenty of guys that can hit home runs, so I'm not really. If this is all you can do, you're not really much help. And defensively, he's not really useful anywhere else. Third base, AA, Yidi Cape. He's looking real solid. I feel like he's almost ready for a call-up. I mean, he's not a call-up, but a promotion to AAA. Arguably, I feel like I could do it, but I don't want to overwhelm him and have him start doing worse. And his morale right now is great, so he's happy where he is. So there's no need to move him up if he's not complaining. Because sometimes you'll see their morale is low, and that's just simply because they think they should be in the higher level. So that's that. But he's looking real good. He's definitely going to be, by the end of the year, he'll be in AAA. And who knows, if he keeps us up, he might be on my roster next year. If he can improve enough throughout the season and the off season. Shortstop, we got Khalil Watson nursing, what's he nursing right now? Strained hamstring. He's also been fabulous down here at the high A level. Again, could I call him up? Maybe to AA, but again, that's somebody I don't want to rush because he's not even as good. So he's still developing as a hitter. Defensively, he's there. I think he could play at any level and be fine defensively. It's his offensive capabilities are still lacking. Even though he's also doing great at the high A level, but that's high A. So he's still a good ways before he's contributing at the major league level, national, international. High A. Then Jack Hurley, my left fielder, also in high A. He's doing real well. He's telling me that he's almost ready, if not ready, for AA. He's really playing at an extremely high level. Which is a pleasant surprise considering that he wasn't that good last year at low A. Still gave him a promotion anyway. And he's really playing extremely well at high A. But I thought he would be because his ratings were more than capable of handling high A pitching. And it looks like he's taking off and running with it. Really almost ready for the AA level. Right fielders are all Dominican or Fort Worth complex guys, so a lot of these guys are really far. So most of our guys are really far from, because if you look at it by level, and he's even far from contributing at the major league level. He's still got way too much developing to go. So a lot of these, I don't really see anybody being called up anytime soon. Jacob Berry is going to be probably our last call up for quite some time. The rest of these guys are good ways away. So that's it for this video. Hopefully this summer treats us better and we can get back into the wild card hunt. I don't want to say it's over with the division, but the Mets just look unbelievable, and they have a 69% winning percentage is crazy. So I don't really see us catching up to them, but a wild card spot shouldn't be something that's a ridiculous goal, considering that we're only a game and a half out as is, and that's with the huge struggle that we had. So game and a half out. You never know when you play against one of those teams. You can sweep them in a series like we did against Arizona, and you're right there back in it in the wild card hunt. And really, just considering how terrible they were last year, it's where does it say how terrible they were last year? Does it say that? Where was that? Here, yeah, look at that. Considering they were 58-104 last year, I think anything I do this year is much better. And we're also doing what he asked, play close to 500 ball, and we're close to 500 ball. The attendance is up. Everything's looking well as far as the goals here. So I can't complain. I think we're on the right track. It just takes time because you got to develop these young players. But eventually it will pay off as they get called up one by one. And then we'll end up being the new version. Like it was Houston Astros years ago Now it's the Baltimore Orioles. And soon it'll be the Miami Marlins. So thanks for watching. We'll see you at the end of June.